Welcome back to Health and Wellness on K24 TV with me, Shiko Kaitani. Today on this show, we're talking about dyslexia, a learning disorder that involves difficulty in reading due to problems identifying speech sounds and learning how to relate those to letters and words, pretty much what you actually call decoding. And so we've been asking you to send in your questions and of course tell us how you or a loved one has been coping with this learning condition. And how can we also go as far as getting our education system to be more inclusive for children or individuals who have learning disorders like dyslexia? Keep talking to us at K24 TV, and of course our WhatsApp number is at the bottom of your screen. We'll be sampling your text messages in just a few. But still in studio with me is special needs teacher Nancy Munyi, as well as George Ndagu, who is a person living with dyslexia and sharing his story with us. Just before the break, George told us something very interesting about how he, does his thing or deals day to day. And George, back to that question about how you have been coping, because one of the questions that people will have for you is, okay, so how are you able to articulate yourself? Where did you learn how to speak like that if you can't read or write? So please tell us, how do you function from day to day, so to speak?
Speaking, actually, funny thing is,
yeah,
I learned from the TV.
Yeah.
I didn't learn from school.
Wow.
Because we as parents, my parents agreed, we agreed we should make our school to be the world,
yes,
or the environment.
Wow.
So what I did is I crammed everything what's going on in my surrounding and learned myself to talk.
Yes.
And day-to-day business, every day,
yeah,
actually I hire people to do things for me. Like maybe reading some documents,
right,
to sign some document. I have to have somebody near me I trust.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about trust now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And also find other ways to go around it. Let's say I met a new person.
Yeah.
And I ask her a number. She will tell me a number.
Yeah.
But I'll say, oh, sorry, I've lost the reading glasses.
Yeah.
Can you help me? So I found a way to survive the area. So I thought the person will understand and they will happy for me.
And so Nancy, do children with dyslexia typically avoid activities that involve reading or writing from the classrooms? Things like reading out loud. If you tell a child, okay, why don't you read for us this paragraph? You can literally see the fear in them.
That is one of the disaster that they go through.
Yeah.
Like the way we do as teachers, like when we are reading, we are doing a reading lesson,
yeah,
where you tell children, like, you read paragraph 1, read paragraph 2,
yeah,
and you are expecting George to read paragraph 3. So what maybe George will do, we look for reasons to get out of the class before that paragraph, that time reaches to him.
Yeah.
And because he will get butterflies, and probably people will know that he's struggling in reading, so he would rather be out of the class.
Yes.
So the worst a teacher can do is to tell a child who is struggling in reading, read loudly in class.
Oh, wow.
Because that one is like, it will kill his self-esteem. It will make him believe that he can't imagine even troubling in class. So, yeah.
Okay. And I like what our teacher from Nakuru shared with us about how the education system isn't really doing much for people with a learning disorder. But here's the thing. From what I understand is that people with dyslexia should be given an individual learning plan, so to speak. Is that very different from being in a special needs setting?
A person with dyslexia, since he doesn't show any other difficult, he needs to learn in a regular environment.
Oh, really? Okay.
But with support. You can't imagine, like the statistics says 1 in 5 children have dyslexia.
Yeah.
So which special school would we have for, you can imagine if a school has 400 students, how many students have dyslexia?
Yeah.
And the dyslexia varies from mild to severe like George. Like George, even now in adulthood, he can't read.
Yes.
My son can read and he had dyslexia.
Yes.
So it varies. So it's really difficult to have a special school for children with dyslexia. But a special support in the school that they are in, that's what is required.
So now it boils down to the actual institution. Okay.
But if we are going to have a place like where we have in Reagem, we have students who have severe.
Yeah.
But a person with mild and moderate will do well in a school institution, but with some support. So what happens is the teacher needs to know to identify that Nancy has dyslexia, so I'm not going to give him these activities to do, and these are the ones that I'm supposed to give. And actually setting some time to give this specific child support, like what you're saying, reading sounds, decoding, because it's basically about reading.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. George, right now you mentioned that you are currently in, can I say class or therapy, if that's the correct term to use. So what does it take? And what do you typically do within your classes?
Well, we have classes like, basically the person teaches how to go around our reading. So they give you tools.
Yes.
If you see, let's say you see a A or B, they'll find a way to help you see the opposite way, because usually we see it oppositely. And they help you to understand the reading part.
Okay. And so typically you are recommended to have these, what, twice a week, 3 times a week?
Actually, usually it's actually once an hour, but usually an hour is not enough. It's 2 hours, 2 hours usually, but 2 hours still is not enough. And actually, good thing you remind me. Yeah. This also class is not cheap, because picture this: you spend, maybe give you a lowest figure, 5,000 an hour.
Wow.
So you need like 2 hours. That's basically
10K.
10K.
Yeah.
In a month, how much is that?
That's 40,000 shillings to just have someone coming for therapy. How did your son overcome his reading disability?
Well, I would say that he was lucky that I was his first teacher, and I realized he's having this reading problem. And we did quite a lot, not what I'm doing today, because right now I've studied so much, I know how to do things. Him being my first student with these reading challenges, I also didn't know what to do things, but I tried to encourage him. I actually told him that he has learning challenges when he was so young, and we were like doing things together. I used to give him time, like very early in the morning. From 5 we would wake up, do some reading and decoding, and by the time he was in standard 5, he was able to read a bit, not like his age mate. That's how we did. So I say supporting parents is very important.
Keep texting us, by the way. We want to sample some of your text messages. I don't know, Bona Eddie, if we do have any that have come in. Let's sample some more text messages before I get back to you, Nancy and George. Someone says, hi, if dyslexia is not taken care of at an early stage during childhood, does it cause someone to be sensitive and full of anger issues? Like, I just snapped from good to worse when something is irritating or repetitive. Okay. Very good question there. Hi, did George cope with his social life? I'm Dorcas, a teacher, and I'm a teacher. The problem is that parents don't accept their children with such disorders. Very good point. Okay. And then lastly, let's see. Hello, education part, especially teachers needed to understand the psychological, mental aspect of students in order to interact mostly with disorders. Francis from Kobojoy. Okay. Let's take a look at the diagnosis around this. And Nancy, let me start off with you because it's something that has been brought up, okay? So how is a therapist able to determine whether it's a social problem that a child is going through versus dyslexia? Because the kid could either be, having anxiety, could be stressed from home, and all these other things, even depressed.
When you are taught reading, it is so easy if your brain can accept that. Like it flows. you are able to read sounds, to understand the sounds, and
Yeah.
to blend them, and to form words. So if a child is not able to get that, automatically shows that there is some underlying challenges, and it is not so simple for them.
Yeah.
And this can now bring stress to the child, rather than when you think that the stress is the one which has brought reading issues. It is reading issues have brought stress, because this child is using so much energy. We usually say that a child to read in a normal level, a child with dyslexia uses 5 times or 7 times energy to read what is a person without dyslexia is able to read.
Okay.
So you can imagine the stress.
All right, just hold that thought as Stacey from Mombasa is joining us via our phone line. Stacey, good morning.
Yes. Good morning. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Thanks a lot for calling in. Do you have a question or do you have a comment for us today?
Okay, I'd like to add on the topic about the children.
Yeah.
I think the teachers, during their training,
Yeah.
it should be incorporated in their teaching practices, as in their mind. Because it's such a worrying stuff, because if you're told in 5 children, 1 has dyslexia, that's a very serious issue. Yeah, so it should start from the grassroots, from the teachers. It should not be classified as a special needs, because many don't want to be classified as special.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so I think that's the way forward.
Thank you, Stacey. Stacey saying that this should actually be part of teachers' training on how to even be able to identify learning disorders, which is another gap that needs to be tackled. So before you start chasing children out of the classroom, you need to be able to say, okay, this one, probably we have a bigger issue, an underlying issue. But yes, finish your point that you had before.
Well, I was saying about a diagnosis.
Yeah.
So a child now, when reading, at school it's easier to read for others and not for him.
Okay.
So the stress, it comes in now. He's not able to understand himself. And like there is a message somebody has said, does it bring some irritativeness and anger?
Right.
Yes, it brings so much anger because you don't understand yourself. And as George said, you are bullied by your friends and your parents are not believing in you.
Yeah.
Then that brings anger and mental issues now.
Yeah. Okay. And George, you seem to have found a ecosystem around you that, helps you thrive. You do more than just having your therapy sessions. Yes. You also do a lot to kind of feed, let me say, the stress factors in your life. You mentioned that exercise, diet also helps you, live a better life. Yeah. Right.
It does. Usually I make sure every day I run.
Yeah.
Or be in the gym. Or I just surround myself with positive people.
Yes.
Because that's important.
Because people will be quick to remind you of what you cannot do.
True.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where the stress factor now comes in.
Yes.
And I think for you, George, yes, it would be frustrating because to the rest of the world, it looks like such a simple task. Like, how can you not? It's very hard to actually absorb that and understand how that could be a challenge for people. So I get where you're coming from in terms of dealing with that as a stress factor. Getting back to the emotional support and the important part that parents have to play. Nancy, what is your word to parents today in terms of being able, number one, to identify challenges within their children? I think COVID-19 has taught us quite a bit because you're stuck in the house, by the way, with the kids, in quotes, right?
Yes.
So this should have been a good time to learn.
And you have seen the true colors.
Yes.
That the true child that you have. Maybe you thought that your child is able to read at school.
Yeah.
Because sometimes even teachers are not truthful. Because of course my work and my business with the parent is for you, between you and me, is your child. So if my job is depending on how I'm going to make your child read, and I'm going to be sacked because your child is not able to read, then I'm going to fake it. So now you have your child at home, you have seen that the child is not able to read. But the best a parent can do is first encourage this child and patience, patience is the backbone.
Yeah.
Like if you're repeating, because it requires a lot of repeating and a lot of repeating in teaching reading, you don't just give up. Like sometimes you teach a child to read like D and then drink, and the child says brink, and then you say, eh?
Yeah.
So that also makes the child feel like, what?
Yeah.
What did I say? So it requires quite a lot of patience and repetition.
Right.
Yeah.
George, we have seen a couple of viewers who've expressed their concern about how parents don't accept children with learning disorders. Like, that is not allowed in our how
Right.
no, that's not allowed. So for you, tell us about the engagement between you and your parents and helping you, you know, overcome some of these challenges.
Well, my parents actually were 100% behind me,
Yeah.
because I will not be here standing talking to you right now, because he had a chance
Yeah.
to let me go somewhere in a hospital, in a corner, and
Yeah.
leave me alone. And I agree, support is important,
Right.
especially parents. I will tell you something. There are two places my safe place was: my brain
Yeah.
and at home.
Wow.
Because I felt comfortable in
Yeah.
that at home, because everybody accepted me.
Everyone accepted you. Hold
Yes.
that thought. Harrison from Kitale is joining us, George, then you can finish your point. Harrison, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, Karibu, thanks for calling. You have a question? Do you have a comment?
I just wanted to ask a question
Yeah, go ahead.
about the dyslexia, the awareness that you are trying to put. Those students in class who does not read that fluently, does this show that they have this character trait, or that is what was my question.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, Harrison. I'll pose that question to Nancy in just a minute. Okay, stay tuned. George, yes, so you said everybody at home has accepted you.
Yes,
So that is a huge factor.
true. And also important is yourself also, do you have to accept it? Before, I never used to accept it.
Yeah.
I used to fight it. And you reach a point, you know what, I need to be positive about myself, and also being in a good surrounding. Like I was in a school called Agastana.
Yeah.
It's not there anymore, but it was a good school. Everybody was supportive.
Yes.
From out of the time you're meeting students there, everybody knew where they should be there. Like everybody has a position to learn something.
Yeah.
Nobody's judging you. No one's. It's a positive environment.
Yeah. And you know, even just to do your day-to-day functions, like you said, it takes a lot for a human being, and even as an adult, to entrust other people to help you function. How do you post on social media? How do you count money? How do you, you know, the simple tasks in your life, you must entrust someone to help you with that. But getting back to what even Harrison has asked, and even the gentleman earlier on who says, you have a child who is about 5 years old and able to write their name. Is that a red flag, Nancy? At the same time, we've got one child that Harrison has just spoken about who has speech challenges. In other words, not able to articulate themselves very well, and you know, they're just not fluent, as he put it. But
well,
about
what Harrison has said about speech, just like I had said earlier, speech is a sign of many other underlying issues. So this person now, the child needs proper diagnostic assessment, so that the parent can be advised on which way to go, whether to engage a speech therapist, or is it about learning, which we may be developing about learning. So diagnostic assessment is very, very important at this level. And about the parent who said about the 5-year-old, well, at 5 years it's a bit too early, but then it is good time for assessment, so that you can have actually know where am I heading to? Am I going to have this child like
Yes. Well, you know, even that goes to show that I guess we also do have parents who are extremely overachievers. You know, you're expecting too much from your child too early. Like
I think at 5 years is good time because the child
Yes.
has already joined school.
Yeah.
You know, joining school at 4.
Yeah.
And then you are able to see that your child is not capturing leading like the others. So it's good sign, and this is a keen parent.
Yeah.
And now the next thing that to confirm what he's thinking, it's better to have the child go for an assessment.
Okay, so speaking about assessment, give us pointers. Where do I go? Who do I start with? Because he's mentioned quite a number of people he also visited. Narrow it down for us as to where to start to take my child for this assessment.
Okay, at least nowadays there are quite a number of assessors around in the country. I don't think that were there during George's time.
Yeah.
We do assessment at Dyslexia Organization Kenya. We have other institutions, even the government institution have, they do assessment. We have schools like Kestromina, KCCR, and we have we have quite a number of assessors who are doing the assessment, and specifically for dyslexia and for IQ.
Yeah, because remember, probably the parent doesn't know that this is dyslexia.
Yeah.
So do I start with a pediatrician? Then the pediatrician refers me now perhaps to a speech therapist, or what would happen in such a case?
Well, I don't think, and I need to be corrected, a pediatrician would help here because it's nothing to do about medical cases, you know.
Yeah.
So the best thing is now when you get, this is a learning issue, so you need to get to a teacher who can now guide you on where to go for the assessment.
Yeah.
And that's why I have just said about the schools where assessment takes place.
Yeah. Your take, George, on our syllabus or just how our education systems are to individuals like you, what do you think really needs to happen in your opinion? What can we change?
I think we need to have a proper system for dyslexic. Especially in public schools.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people, I'm sure, that they're not getting the same help the rest of the people having.
Right.
If somebody actually in public service and they can do this, they should apply something like this. This is one of, I can say, basic needs of a country should have in a school.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also it'll help as a parent, a bit of burden comes out
from them.
From them.
Yeah.
Just to have a bit of guidance somewhere.
Absolutely.
Not just leave the kid stray.
Okay,
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. And for you, in terms of educational techniques that are being used now in some of these therapy classes, Nancy, if you can share a little bit about that with us.
Well, therapy for dyslexia is also expensive because if you have to bring a teacher and to come in the house.
Yeah.
So if it is going to happen in a school setup, would be is burden for the parents.
Yeah.
And this will only happen if the teachers are trained on that. So training is it's important and key for identification. So even the teachers will be able to identify. So what I'm dealing with here, it's something beyond me. So this is the way, or this way I can send, I can refer this child to.
Yeah.
So teachers training is the key because maybe parents will not be able to tell the difference between dyslexia and other issues.
You're right.
But the teachers after training they will be able to tell, and I'm sure even after training they will be told these are the places that you can send the child for assessment. Apparently we have government assessment centers where this can be assessed, but even the teachers don't know.
Right.
Yeah, so you find like the teacher will stay with the child in the class for as long as the parent does not complain, and the child goes on and on, and sometimes they are made to repeat classes, and now that brings another psychosocial problem because of repetition and repetition and called names, you see. So teacher training is very important.
It's true. I can already see how this can affect a child psychologically, because that's their world. That's all they know, and the only thing you're doing is making them repeat and punish, repeat and punish. So
and when you are making them repeat, you are not changing anything.
Right.
You are not changing the setup in the class. You're not changing the delivery or approach you're using. You're just using the same thing and you made them repeat. So there is the only thing that will change is the child growth, nothing else.
And even for you speaking as a teacher, do you understand also the challenges that teachers do face? Some of them are just completely fatigued. When you're dealing with a classroom of about 60 children, where is the time to even single out that one child?
That's another huge challenge.
Yeah.
That's another huge challenge that the teacher will now made to move with the bright one, those who are able to read, because of the bulkiness of the books that he has to, and even the number of, sometimes even the teachers don't know the name of the students, because how can you be able to know the name of 80 students if you have 80 students in class?
Right.
Yeah, so you delegate so much work to the prefects.
Yeah.
And the prefects are the same people who are bullying. So the person now, the child in that class is already not in a proper place. Yeah.
Right. I can see the challenge over there in public schools especially. Do we have any more text messages that we can sample as we say kwaheri? Okay, let's just look at one because of time. Hello, Shiko. I'm Esther from Kiambu. My husband's little sister is a 6-year-old now, and she can't differentiate between Jana and Kesho and wears her shoes or slippers on different sides of her feet. I once helped her do her homework, and it was so hectic because she wanted me to write down what I said to her because she couldn't get what I was saying. Does this have something to do with dyslexia? Yes, no?
Yes, and it needs more assessment.
It needs more assessment. Okay, Esther, we're going to advise you to get the help that you need. Remember what Nancy actually did say. You need to start off by getting a teacher and someone who can be able to assess the child further and then be able to refer her to specialists from there on. But I think the take home here is that it's never too late to learn. And I think, George, you're a living testament to that.
True. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So let me thank you so much because that's all the time we did have for our discussion today. But Nancy Muringo Munyi, remember, is a special needs teacher. If you are going to be looking her up, she is the principal of Rare Gem Talent School should you require any assistance with your child. And George Ndagu, part of that bigger support community that we're talking about for people living with dyslexia, you can find him on social media, send him an inbox, of course, get in touch with him or get in touch with me so that I can put you in touch with George Ndagu. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, so with that, let me say kwaheri and hand over to the Daily Brief that's coming up next. There's more to come on K24. Have a blessed day up ahead. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.